So I decided to do the robbery because on one hand, I can take some burden off my family. I can provide for myself if I manage to do this, or I get arrested and I go to jail. And I knew if I went to jail, that's where I would be doing the best I could. They have a good school there that I could work out there. Got my own room, clean clothes, the whole thing. And as it turns out, we all got arrested, and I went to juvenile detention again. It would be my second time doing a sentence there, and I pled guilty to the robbery. It was a plea bargain, and I was sentenced to spend the next year of my life in juvenile detention. So I would have been about 16 years old at the time, and I just said, "Hey, this is 1 year for me to work out hard as I can, work out every day, get the best grades I can, and change my life." I was in the back of the cop car that night. I remember telling the cops even that night, "This is the last time you're going to see me." I already knew. I already knew. Even before I got arrested, even before I did the crime, I knew this is what I needed to do to improve myself. I know it kind of sounds weird, like saying that I'm doing something that's negative. That people obviously shouldn't do crime, but for me, that was the only way I could see out.
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people watching us from around the world, you say, okay, we know where Canada is, and British Columbia on the west coast, right? Right. And we got that big city there called Vancouver. Yes. Well, we are 500 miles north of Vancouver, or 800 kilometers for our European friends. Prince George, interesting community, about 80 to 82,000 people. Lots of friends here, black bears, grizzly bears, caribou, deer, wolves, foxes, you name them. We have them all, and we call it paradise. Today we have an interesting guest, Calvin Tedesco. Tedesco is an interesting guest. Calvin is not just your average personal trainer. His journey into fitness began in a place most people spend their lives trying to avoid: jail. At 15 years old, Calvin found himself behind bars, and I'm sure you're going to tell us all about that. The other part about Calvin is that today works with men and women around the world to help them become stronger, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Calvin, this is going to be a very, very interesting podcast. Tell us all about it, starting from where were you born, and how did you go through life, and the setbacks here and there, and what brought you to today.
Oh man, well, I'm fired up to be here talking to you, especially you're in Prince George. That's actually a big part of my story. I don't know if you know that or not, but
No, I didn't know that.
oh yeah. So I was in Prince George. I remember when you were preparing for one of your bodybuilding shows. I used to work at that Gold's Gym.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
yeah. That's
believe?
that's a big part of my story is Prince George.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I
but
like
I,
it.
so I actually come from Surrey, BC.
Okay.
I was born and raised there, and I just started getting mixed up in some of the wrong stuff. Drugs, crime, violence, you name it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I went to juvenile detention that I started to find something positive for my life. And so through fitness, I was able to kind of rehabilitate myself. But it wasn't before I'd have to, put myself back in jail. So the problem was, living in Surrey, that environment, I just could not seem to get myself right. But I knew that from my previous experience in the juvenile detention center, that that might be the way out for me. So one night I was kind of faced with a decision, whether or not we're going to do this robbery, or should I go, to my girlfriend's house that night and sleep, or should I go home to my place where I lived with my parents? We'd been living in a trailer. It just wasn't the best living conditions. I figured, what's the best thing I could do for my life, man? Like I'm stuck. At 15 years old, I felt depressed. I felt anxious. I felt hopeless. And if I go sleep at my girlfriend's house, what's that going to do? How long am I going to keep this up for? If I go to my house, what's that going to do? I'm just, what am I doing? Just living another day for what? So I decided to do the robbery because on one hand, I can take some burden off my family. I can provide for myself if I manage to do this, or I get arrested and I go to jail. And I knew if I went to jail, that's where I would be doing the best I could. They have a good school there that I could work out there. Got my own room, clean clothes, the whole thing. And as it turns out, we all got arrested, and I went to juvenile detention. Again, it would be my second time doing a sentence there. And I pled guilty to the robbery. It was a plea bargain, and I was sentenced to spend the next year of my life in juvenile detention. So I would have been about 16 years old at the time, and I just said, "Hey, this is 1 year for me to work out hard as I can, work out every day, get the best grades I can, and change my life." I was in the back of the cop car that night. I remember telling the cops even that night, "This is the last time you're going to see me." I already knew. I already knew. Even before I got arrested, even before I did the crime, I knew this is what I needed to do to improve myself. I know it kind of sounds weird, like saying that I'm doing something that's negative. That people obviously shouldn't do crime, but for me, that was the only way I could see out. And so in juvenile detention, through fitness, through working out, getting good grades, doing everything positive I could do, counseling, NA, AA, everything I could do. Eventually, I got offered a opportunity to do a work program in Prince George. So there's a juvenile detention center in Prince George. I had been in Burnaby because I come from Surrey, right?
Right.
I was in the Burnaby jail, and my co-accused got offered to do a work program in Prince George. It turns out that he put my name in to go up there as well. And I thought, hey, that sounds great. I can go up there. I can do forestry work. So they're going to give us all the courses. We're going to do all the schooling, all the education to be able to go out and do forestry. And I could actually make some money while I'm in jail and get some life skills and the whole nine. So I was like, hey, this sounds like a good thing to do. I'm going to do that. But as it turned out, because I had the violent charges, they didn't want to let me out to do in the forest with the chainsaw type stuff. So I didn't get to actually do the work program, but I did get basically I had to stay in Prince George for about 8 months where I couldn't get no visits or anything like that. Probably had like one visit throughout that time because my family's all in Surrey, right?
Right.
But that brings me to near the end of my sentence. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the juvenile detention system or how it really goes, but you got a lot of caseworkers, counselors, social workers, teachers. These people all sit in on these meetings, corrections officers, etc. They all sit in on these meetings and they try to prepare you for your release date. So
Right.
my release date was going to be December 31st. I can't remember what year we were in, maybe 2011 or something like that. And they were trying to make my release plans for Prince George. Now, I'm not from there. That's hundreds of miles away from home. I want to go home, right? My family's in Surrey. My friends are in Surrey. I've been away from everybody for a year, which to a
500
youth,
miles away.
yeah, that seems like a long time to be away when you're a youth. You only have so many of those years. And so everything they kind of came up with and showed me, I was like, no, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But there was a teacher, my English teacher named Cynthia Coles, who said, I think I know something for you. I've only offered a few kids to join this program, and only the ones that I brought here have done really well. I think you should check it out. So they actually took me on an outing to go meet the teachers at this school called the TAPS program. So it's on the same campus. I don't know if it's still running or not, but it's on the same campus as the College of New Caledonia.
Yeah.
So they
Still
took
going.
me there to introduce me to the teachers, and I met a teacher named Stu McDonald, and she ran the fitness program. So fitness was my greatest passion. I don't know if I explained that already, but it was like I didn't know anything positive in my life at this point, up until I went to jail. And this is why I was so excited about fitness, because it was just something positive that I actually like to do. My peers was like, that's a good thing to do. The corrections officers say that's a good thing to do. Teacher, everybody says, hey, working out's a good thing to do. And I like it. So I was just obsessed with it. I could not stop. Every morning I just couldn't wait to wake up and work out, you know? So Sue McDonald says, hey, we do these runs at like 6, 7 in the morning. You know, we got this fitness program. She's telling me all about it. And I finally just said, okay, whatever I got to do to stay here and go to this school, like that's what I'm doing, man. And so it turns out, because I was at-risk youth, because I'm in care of the ministry now, they they had a place for me to stay. You know, there's a place called the Hawk Program. It's run by trying to remember the name off the top of my head, but the Hawk Program is where I was at, which is almost, to me, it kind of seemed like almost like a halfway house for youth. I don't know if that's a good way to explain it, but we
Right.
still got, some security. Like, so even though I'm released from jail at this point, I'm still kind of putting myself through another program. It's about 5 months where I wasn't able to just kind of leave the house when I want, go work out. I'm not really free. I got like an alarm on my bedroom door, but that was exactly what I needed, and I'm really grateful for Debbie. Her name is. I'm really grateful for her, because without that program, I wouldn't have been able to make this happen. But that led me into the agreement with, I think it's called a youth agreement, and then an agreement with young adults, where they actually fund you for a lot of your living and a lot of your schooling. And because I was in school with Sue, and I was at the TAPS program with all those awesome teachers, they were able to set me up for like my next steps. You know, like I said, I always planned on going home. I always wanted to go home to my family. I always wanted to go home to my friends. But lo and behold, I guess there's this thing called kinesiology. It's the study of the human body, muscles, movement, all the stuff I'm passionate about. So Sue McDonald hooked me up. She said, hey, look, you're even on the college campus already. Why don't you take an upgrading course in biology, so that when you graduate, we can get you into this college? And I'm working with, some of the top counselors, some of the top advocates for youth at this time. I didn't have these opportunities in Surrey, so this is blowing my mind. It boggles my mind, because it's like I never could have seen any of this coming. But all of a sudden now I have this opportunity to go to a college program to study this thing that I'm passionate about and make a career out of it. I didn't know none of this was possible. Like, I was a youth in the detention system, involved with drugs, crimes, violence. I saw no hope for my future, and now here I am. I'm about to go to college. I could not believe that this was really happening. But that's exactly what I did. I put myself through this college program next. I didn't move home, and as it turns out, my dad passed away during this time, so my home now was gone, and I ended up, moving to Chilliwack, where I'm at now, to finish my schooling. So because I had the diploma, moved here to get my degree and open my business. I've been training ever since. I basically just put my whole life into this path, and that's why I really relate with your story, because to see someone who really just followed their passion and let that be like their guiding force. A lot of people tell you not to do that. They say, "Hey, there's no money in that," or "There's don't do that. That's not a secure career or whatever." But that's why I really love listening to your story, because you're someone who like followed his passion. You're guided by your principles, and no one can tell you otherwise. You know what I mean? So I hope that gives you a good breakdown.
Yeah, a few surprises there, Calvin. I had no idea you were in British Columbia, even less so in Prince George. And obviously, as you already know, I have been in Prince George. I'm a little bit older than you are. I'm going to be 85 this year, in the next 6 months or so, 4 months, 5 months. But 80, I call it 85 years young. And so College of New
Yeah.
Caledonia is very close to me, because I got the honor of having my name on the John A. Brink Trades and Technologies Center of the College of the New Caledonia. So I'm very close to that as well. And in the 60 years that I've been here, starting with absolutely nothing when I was in my early 20s, could speak the language, didn't know a soul, and from there on in, had the dream of building a lumber mill. And it's all about seeing that opportunity. And if I look at your life, looking at your bio and your story, is that you had adversity, being in the wrong circle, getting exposed to wrong people likely around you that brought you into drug use and subsequently crime, put you in jail. That could have well been, and then the second time, again, when you were sitting there and saying, what should I do to do a robbery versus other things, and then sitting in the back of the police car when you guys got picked up, and knowing that this was the turning point for you, although you knew likely you would go back to jail again or into custody in some sort. That was the point that you could well have gone the other way in terms of going from there on deeper down, and that then would have preoccupied your life of crime, and meaning likely that you would have spent a lot of time in jails or in custody in some form or fashion as you went into your early adulthood. So it is encouraging from my perspective, and is that you saw at that point you had to change direction. And it was just through circumstance that you met those individuals, and it's unique, you still remember their names well, that then suggested to go to the Prince George region to serve part of your custody or protective custody in some form or fashion in the Prince George region, and then again met the right people that helped to change your life, and especially the College of New Caledonia, and then getting exposed to kinesiology, and
That's right.
and for those that I had to kind of look it up, it is all about movement, and you will explain it to us as we watch you and your story. Kinesiology is movement of body, your mind, your body as a whole, how you make it work together, and the importance of the other part is training. Physical fitness already was very much part of you early in your life, because through all of this, I see that you were preoccupied with fitness, and also when you were in Prince George, you became part of the training at Gold's Gym, and that's a gym that is around North America. It's part of franchising, but independently owned, and I've been a member of that particular gym for the last 16 years, actually. And
Oh yeah.
so and it's like home to me in a way. And after this show, I'll be working out with the trainer again, because I am from your mindset. I look at your bio and you say train or die,
Yep. That's
and
right.
saying the importance, and we want to talk about that, the importance of all of this, all the challenges that you had, and obviously challenge in particular when you came to Surrey, which is a big city, lots of stuff going on, also bad stuff here and there, easily to get involved in, that you were exposed to pull yourself out of that, and dependency on drugs and the wrong lifestyle, to push yourself out of there through circumstances where you got nudged or helped with certain individuals that brought you here to the College of New Caledonia, and there where you got a degree, training here, studying here, and then finishing it off in Surrey, BC, and Kinesiology, and which became then your career, and that's what you're doing today. And obviously, as you sit there, I can see you are fit, and and the last time that you saw me, I'm also an author, as you know. So the last book that I wrote is this one here. Is that and this goes up to what you believe in. So at nearly 85, I say living young, dying old, and then it's all about not age as a number, it's quality of life, and that is me at nearly 85 years old, and I say everything is possible, and where in your coaching that you say and the things that you talk about and write about is that saying that start now and make that commitment of fitness and start slowly if you wish, but gradually work up. Start then as you do, as I do, and I've been doing this for 16 years. I like going to the gym. I like all parts of it, and it is rewarding. And so where I am the example of, I started in 2009 when I already was 69 years old. And then, as you know, is that then as I was going to the gym, I knew I came this close to dying because I had a case of diverticulitis, which is a breach of the colon, and so you have about 48 hours before it starts, the toxins start attacking your organs. And I got to the hospital in time. They operated on me, took 20 centimeters out of my colon, and the following morning the doc said to me, you came this close. And then I knew I had to become more serious about two things. My wife is vegetarian. I didn't listen as well as I could have. I was not abusive necessarily in terms of what I ate, but not as good as I could be. So I do that. I knew I had to then make that commitment to diet. I knew I had to make a commitment in a serious way of going to the gym. Before that, it was a lot of times, in my case, a question of saying that at the end of the year, I'm going to do this, that, and that, and that. And those again, I'm going to buy a membership to the gym. And then after 2 weeks, I can find 100 reasons why I'm too busy to go to the gym. And so, but I didn't do that then. I got myself a trainer. I started working in the gym. And after doing that for about 6 years and already in my mid-70s, somebody came up to me and he said, hey, John, have you ever thought about competing? I said, no, really? He said, well, yeah. So I did, and I got ready for competing, and then Northern BC, bodybuilding and physique, came in second bodybuilding, third in physique, qualified me for the provincials, came in second, third there again, that qualified me for the nationals and the Arnolds. And then COVID came, and now again, at nearly 85, I want to go back to the Arnolds at 86. Here's the way I look today, and I'm still working on, and you can appreciate it. It takes effort and it takes time, but it's extremely rewarding, and obviously deals with all those other things. Diet and physical fitness deals with quality of life. That's what it is all about. And even now at nearly 85, I can run circles around a lot of people, that are half my age and still go to the gym, and I love it and I enjoy it. And it's all about quality of life.
See, that's amazing. 'Cause I feel like people are starting to just like pack it in at 40 or 50, or even when they finish high school, they stop being active. You know what I mean? Or they start to think I'm too old. I can't do this. But even like you've shown people from 70 to 85, that's 15 years of working out.
Exactly.
Like that's the same amount of time I've been working out.
Exactly.
That's just amazing to me. That you could start something in your 60s or 70s and have a decade plus of experience by the time. It's just amazing.
And the point is, Calvin, this with your background and your challenges all the way, once you made the commitment that you were going to go the other direction and start and take the choice of going into coaching, fitness and movement and all the things relating to it, that part is amazing. And looking at you, you're very fit. And I'm on the other side of that spectrum and saying that everything is possible at any age. Don't tell me that you're 50 and you're too old, or 60 or 70. Start now, and you can. And it doesn't mean that you have to go to the gym, do what you and me are doing now, but start slowly, start walking, and then look at your diet. Be careful with your diet and all those things. Mental fitness. The foundation for me is attitude, avoid the negative, passion, whatever you do, give it 125%, and work ethic. The harder you work, the more successful you will become. And so even still today, I work ethic, I work harder than anybody. I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I always make my bed, and I always think I'm late. And I enjoy every single day is special to me.
See, those are words to live by right there. Those are words to live by. I think everybody should be living like that, you know. I do the same type of thing. I've been getting up earlier and earlier over the years, and that's pretty much how I live my life. You know, that's when I train most of my clients is at 5 in the morning.
So tell us about your training that you're doing now, So you work towards this, and then you said, I'm going to do this on a full-time basis. Now,
Yes.
virtually, everything is virtual, right? Is it
Yep.
online, or do you do it also in person?
Oh yeah, I do a ton of in person, and I also do online. But I feel like if you could do in person, I feel like it's the better option. You know,
Yeah.
at least even for the online clients that I do work with, I encourage them to try to come out here and do some work in person. And we'll also meet up over Zoom and stuff like that to have a bit more of that. Because I don't know, I just think there's something about it. If you could work with someone in person, you would. I mean, you're going to go see your trainer today, right?
Yeah.
At the Gold's Gym. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just you could have a program online, and definitely ran some awesome programs online, but nothing beats the group and the camaraderie that like we've created at our gym here.
Yeah, the other
But
part about it, Calvin, that I find is that what works for me, and especially initially, is that when you start working out, that to me, my life, and I'm not trying to be important, but I have a number of companies and I'm a fairly busy individual. I live by making commitments in meetings, and so that I have a commitment with the fellow that I'm working out with, and so I make sure I will be there, and then the other part is I'm training very hard, likely, and I'm not suggesting anybody else should. It is a gradual process as you work up. Then, and again, getting ready for competition is that the to have a trainer that helps you in that process, making sure you don't push too hard, but at the same time do it gradually, is very, very important.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I agree 100%.
And
Yeah, I
the
still keep a lot of in-person programs going every day.
yeah, and you're in Chilliwack, right?
I'm in Chilliwack now. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and Chilliwack, for the people watching us around the world, is all part of the Lower Mainland. BC has about between 4 and 5 million people, and a lot of them are in the Lower Mainland, the Vancouver area, and that region all around it. It's a beautiful, beautiful province, beautiful, beautiful city. So very, very active. So the other part that you had some tragedy is with your dad, as you relate to, and I believe, if I'm corrected, you also had a brother that passed away.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, my brother was shot and killed when I was 11. And
I
that was also in Surrey. And then my dad died later on when I think it was while I was in college there. So while I was in Prince George.
Yeah.
But that's a big part of my message because I think coping I think coping is something that a lot of people don't really focus on, especially adults. That nobody really talks about it, like the how to cope. And how do you cope with something like a loss or death in your family, or people go
or
through divorce or
tragedy.
breakup or
Yeah,
any kind of tragic circumstances. It's almost socially acceptable to go drink or do drugs or any other thing to mask the pain you're experiencing. Nobody thinks, hey, come to the gym with me
yeah,
or something along those lines. Or, you need to go reflect. You need to go. I always think working out is the best thing for that. So, like, kind of like you touched on earlier, it's not really just about the physical body, it's more about the mental, like you said, the attitude. What's the best way to get rid of a negative attitude? You got to go work it out.
yeah.
That's the best way to get in a positive mindset. There's actually there's a book about this. It's called it's not even about working out. It's about depression. So it's called The Upward Spiral. And the author, I believe, is a neuroscientist, and he's talking about how depression becomes a downward spiral. So you don't feel good, and so you don't do good. And so these negative habits that we fall into make our lives feel worse. And so now we have even more to feel sad about. So if we have like a death in the family, for example, now we turn to drugs and alcohol, and now we have addictions, and now we're having problems in our home life, exacerbated problems in our work. It just gets worse and worse. Versus if you were to get into something like working out, as this neuroscientist explains in the book, it actually changes your brain chemistry. Stuff like effects like dopamine, serotonin, the brain derived neurotropic factor, all this stuff in your brain, very literally changes the chemistry in your brain through physical exercise. So that's something that this is why I do this. Because
Yeah.
when I started working out in juvenile detention, I noticed that it made me feel better. And I was
Yeah.
in the same boat as everybody else, struggling because like I said, my brother passed away when I was 11. It was tough to go through. And then watching how all the adults in my life, it took them down a bad path because they didn't know how to cope. So when
Yeah.
I learned this started to really that's why I was so excited about it, because it just felt like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like I just stumbled on a gold mine in this physical exercise, which is almost like a cure all. I mean, it was for me, and it is for me. No matter what I go through today, I always know I can get a workout in and start to change how I feel and start to change my circumstances one step at a time.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Calvin. Calvin, is that and actually it's so important to find something that you like and that inspires you. And I saw a program on a U.S. program station, I think of some sort, is that where they claim that 75% of the people that are working in the United States, I think Canada is the same, don't like their jobs, and 70% of the 75% are looking for another job, and I do a lot of presenting to younger people in high schools, colleges, universities. And a lot of times when I do my presenting to some of them, I ask them respectfully, what are you going to do after you're finished here? And a lot of them say, I don't know. And I say, it's so important that you find a direction that you may want to go in, because the rest of your life you likely will spend going in that direction. And if you don't like it, you take that with you. It surrounds you in your family and the friends, and it makes you not a very happy person. And so what I said is that if you want to be a truck driver, talk to truck drivers in terms of what are they doing, what kind of a truck, what are they doing, short haul, long haul, blah blah blah. Find about it, and or if you want to be a contractor, build houses, talk to contractors. What is involved? What should I do? How do you go about this? How about that? Or you want to be a doc or a lawyer, or for that matter, an entrepreneur. Talk to people that are entrepreneurs or in business like myself. They love to talk to people that say, I'm trying to find some direction in my life. Where should I go? What should I do? So I decided to write a book about it. And,
Yeah.
this one here, Finding Your Passion, Living the Dream. And, in saying that I was not academically a success story. When I grew up in Holland, I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times. And so they said, what are we going to do with this guy? And a lot of people said to my parents, they were beautiful people, they said, send him to the mentally challenged school. He said, no, we're not going to do that. So so at 12 and a half years old, they said, okay, my grandfather was a master carpenter. My dad worked in lumber. And they said, let's make him a furniture maker. So they sent me to a furniture factory. And at 12 and a half years old, then I became a laborer. Now, kids are hard on each other. And the friends that I used to have all of a sudden went on to college and university, and I became a laborer. I'm proud of that today, but then it was kind of looked down on. So I lived in my own world most of the time, and saw far too much doing the Warriors and all that kind of stuff. And then the one thing that happened to me that changed my life is that we were liberated April the 12th, 1945 by the Canadian Army. It made such an impression on me that I knew as I grew up I would go to the land of my heroes, Canada. And I did when I was 24. And then the other dream I had is to build my own lumber mill and start with nothing. And as you can relate to, that I flew into Montreal, took the train from Montreal to Vancouver, 4 days, 5 nights. My God, that is a long way. Then when I got to Vancouver, went to the immigration office and couldn't speak English. And fortunately, there was a German fellow there. I told him I wanted to build a lumber mill in 1965. He said, go to Prince George. That's where you want to go. So here, 60 years later, I'm in Prince George. I can still see where the Greyhound station was. And and so I came off the bus. I had 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I counted my money about 3 times. I had $25.47. But what I did have is, as I said earlier, passion, attitude. I always will look at things in a positive way. I will avoid, don't even talk to me about negative. Passion, I give it, whatever I do, I give it 125%. And work ethic. And so, but will then follow is success. And if you stay the course and don't give up, then success will follow. And, and so subsequently, Prince George, I came here at the right time. At the time that I came here, it was very much a boom town. So the question was usually, if somebody talked to you and saying, when did you come here and when are you leaving? It was a place to make money and then you left. But today, Prince George is an amazing community, a family community. It has, as you already said, and you benefited from it, it has, the College of New Caledonia, and you attended there. It has the University of Northern British Columbia, and it is an amazing city that is expanding and it has lots of opportunities. So I love it here, and I love British Columbia.
Man, you know what I love about what you said with the attitude, passion, and work ethic. That's something everybody has access to those things. Nobody's exempt. There's nothing special that it doesn't take. That's not taken away from anybody.
No.
Everybody has that, and like you said, it's the most valuable thing that you have.
Exactly. And then the other question is, and I love what I'm doing as you do, and saying that that's why I say finding your passion, living the dream, and you did find it, I did find it, is saying that so I'm nearly 85. I started working when I was 12 and a half years old. So after 70, so a reasonable question would be, hey John, after 73 years Are you still living the dream and with the things that you do? I do. Every day to me is very, very special. Actually, what I'm going to do, Calvin, I'm going to send you my books. I have 5 of them, and this is the first one that I did, Living Your Dream, the Against All Odds. And
Yeah.
so I'll get Scott to get your address, and then we'll
Oh
send you
yeah.
those books. I'm signing them for you.
Oh, but dude, I would love that. I was just about to ask you, where do I get your books?
No, I'm going to send it to you. So
I do read a lot of books.
So the other part that I find, very, very important, I wrote a book about that as well, is the one behind me, is this one here. It's coming out in July. Is $1
Oh
billion,
yeah.
and it's all about communication skills
Oh
and
yeah.
are critically important that in your business, and
Yep.
you're a very good communicator, and so that means that your foundation is. I wasn't always like I am today, because when I first came here, didn't speak the language, didn't know soul, and I didn't feel all that good about me. Who am I? And came here wanting to build a lumber mill, starting with nothing, and hence 2547. And so it took me a long time to figure out, who am I? And that again is, I believe, very, very important for younger people in particular that are struggling with issues, may they be in schools or not knowing, as you indicated, who am I? Where do I go from here? That may lead you in the wrong direction, either in terms of making choices in education or made choices in careers, hopefully not in terms of going in the wrong direction, ending up in jail, because for a lot of people, once they get there, that will affect the rest of their lives potentially. And so, but still, for me to find confidence took me a long time, and to figure out who am I took me a long time. And so, and as I did, one of the challenges that I had in the schooling is that I wrote also a book about that. Actually, I'm discovered already in my early 60s that I'm also ADHD, and so I wrote
Oh
a book
yeah.
about that. ADHD
Yeah.
Unlocked. I will send you a copy of that as well. So, but and then obviously the other part that has been important for me is to I'm ADHD and have dyslexia, but I'm a very good reader, a writer, but not a good reader, and so they so subsequently writing books to me is something that I liked, I enjoyed. The first book that I did is Against All Odds. A lot of people said to me, "Hey, John, you had such an interesting life. You should write a book about that." And that was already 20 years ago when they said that. And writing books is not easy. And so so I stopped. I started. I stopped. I start. Now this book, Against All Odds, is not about hurrah, hurrah, how successful John is. It's just the opposite. It is going through all the ups and downs. And then, so this book took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, 2 years to write it. And, so I enjoyed it. And, so it helped me in terms of sharing with others, the challenges that we go through. You have, and I have. I've been very open about it, and in a lot of cases, and you touched on that in some of the remarks you made a little bit earlier, is that especially for males, they have to be strong. They cannot have weaknesses or having difficulty challenging with trauma that they've been exposed to. I'm still, affected by PTSD from the war years, self-archimats, that we should not have seen, and a number of other things. counseling that may be helpful along the way. But for males, a lot of times they are not very good at recognizing that, and if they do, how helpful it can be to seek either advice or counseling or whatever to help them through periods. I did that in my life, and it has worked well for me. And I feel I have an obligation, as I believe you do, in terms of sharing with others around the world through this amazing media podcasting some of
Yep.
the experiences, and hopefully that some people will benefit from my story and yours, that in my case in particular, and yours, and all the adversity that you were exposed to, including jail and the incarcerated. And for me, as a young person, not very successful academically necessarily, but starting over new again and never giving up and having a dream, and saying that for me, the approach is I can, not I can't. So everything is possible at any age.
100%. I think that there's a lot of things I wish I knew sooner. If I had known it back then, I would have went a different way. I could only make do with what I had in front of me at the time and with my limited information. But that's why I love the fact that someone like you, with all your lived experience, has gone through all the adversities you've gone through, has taken the time to compile what you've learned and what you've experienced into all these different books, that someone could pick that up and read that and learn from that, and that could give them the piece of information or the piece that they were missing in that moment that carries them forth in a better direction. Like, imagine if I knew to go to a boxing gym instead of to do what I was doing and getting in trouble, or if I knew to go to work out and lift weights, or if I knew, how to eat better, or that I could go pick up a book and learn. Like, I just didn't know until I went to juvenile detention. That was one of the habits I picked up, was reading.
On the other hand, Calvin, I agree with you, but I disagree with you in the sense your foundation is the challenges you went through, the difficulty that you went through to sit in a jail, and not once, but nearly for the second time, and then sitting in, as you explained it, in the back of that police car as he was picked you up, and again likely go to jail, and looked at that as now you knew what it would be involved, to learn from that, to get exposure to positive things, which would then become the trigger that puts you to where you are today. And compared to me, you're still young, you have your life ahead of you, but you have the foundation of challenges well beyond where most people would even get anywhere close to. And if they did, it's the last thing in the world they would talk about, but you did, and you do. And that becomes then the inspiration for others that are maybe sitting there as well, wondering where they should go, potentially being attracted to crime as being something that is easy way of accessing whatever they are looking for, or going the other way and working hard, taking a chance of opportunity, and so if you, which you will become then an inspiration to others, that is rewarding, and your foundation of challenges that you had become very, very important for that message.
I agree with that 100%. Yep. I'm definitely grateful for those experiences. Like you said, the adversity, you definitely grow through what you go through. You definitely grow through the adversities. So, I
Now,
mean, if it wasn't for the juvenile detention, I wouldn't have learned half the stuff. Like, I'm still on the same path. I'm still on the exact same path that I started there.
exactly. So
Yep.
now,
Positive path.
the other part is that you're still very, very active in going to the gym.
Oh yeah,
So,
very active.
and I see this picture of you here.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Uh,
me. Yep.
I couldn't do that, So,
Yeah, I do a lot of crazy, a lot of crazy stuff.
so you're in very good. Are you doing competing as well, or
Oh
just
yeah,
training?
yeah, yeah. So I've competed in a lot of different sports. I've actually got a strongman competition coming up this Saturday. So it'll be in Kelowna. It's
Oh,
going to be a really tough competition. I got to lift some pretty heavy weights there. But I've competed in, I don't know, about 5 different sports. When I was in Prince George, my coach introduced me to running, and then she introduced me to a boxing coach. So I competed in boxing, and then later on, when I moved down here, I competed in powerlifting, and then I competed in boxing again, and then bodybuilding, a couple bodybuilding shows, and finally now I'm doing strongman. So
what
just
is
a broad spectrum
strongman?
of different things.
What is
Yeah, it's like
strongman, Calvin?
another strength sport. Yeah, it's another strength sport where it's a lot of heavy lifting and carrying odd objects and lifting odd objects.
Is it where they
There's
pick
a
up
there's
the
a
big
huge
balls and
history
put them
behind
on
it.
top of?
Oh yeah, that could be part of it. Yep. Yeah, every competition can be slightly different. So that's the kind of the exciting thing about it is there's not like only one setting that they're going to give you. They might give you, you know, one competition could be completely different than another.
Right. So the other thing is, what advice would you give to someone who wants seriously change their life starting today?
Oh yeah. Well, I would highly recommend, listening to a podcast like this because we've dropped so many different things here that someone could use that's effective. But I think a big issue though is a lot of people will hear something that could help them, but not take action on it. So I think they really need to take action on these things that they know could bring positivity into their life. Like really do an assessment. Am I doing these things every day that I know can make me better? Am I at least giving it an honest effort to go work out? Even if I don't know what I'm doing, am I at least giving it an effort? If I don't know what to do with my life, am I attempting to figure that out? Am I reading the books? Am I going and taking some different courses or a different course of action? Putting in the honest effort, I think, is the key, right?
And then the other part that I would say is, on that question is that start with walking. Find
Yep.
a partner of some sort, your wife, your friend, or whatever it is. Go start walking. Walk even half an hour, and then
Yep.
start slowly going to a gym if you feel like it. But start with a trainer, and most gyms will have somebody available that can walk you through the gym, give you some ideas like here, Gold's is a good one, and there are many other gyms as well that are all good, and they will walk you through and give you a general idea and start walking. And then at any age, if you say, well, no, I'm to this or I'm to that, and say, no, go with the idea of I can. And then knowing that in most cases, the last decades of most people's lives is when they have too many medicines, they are out of shape, and they feel that it's too late or whatever. It's never too late, and I'm an example of that. And then the other thing that will happen as you gradually start, before you know it, somebody will say, hey, Calvin or John, my God, what are you doing? You look good. And saying, and it becomes rewarding. Other people start
Yep.
noticing, and then change your mind. I can do it. And gradually build it up as you do. I love going to the gym. And
Yep.
and and once you get through the period of recognizing that you're going in the right direction, it becomes rewarding and you feel good and feel better, right?
That's right. Yep. You got to just keep trusting the process. I would even go so far as to say that everybody should be walking, even the most in shape person, I think, should walk because of I don't know. you have just better thoughts and ideas come to you a lot of times when you're out walking, especially in nature. It's supposed to be one of the best things you could do to make yourself feel better. But I like it from the creative standpoint that you might have an idea while you're just out walking that you normally wouldn't have if you're sitting in front of a TV or whatever. It's
And then
like
you,
if people find it boring, it's almost better. Like when I was in juvie sitting in a cell, that's when I had a lot of my life changing epiphanies. Just laying there staring at the ceiling or whatever. But you could be out walking. That's even better.
yeah, well, it would be better than sitting in the cell because wouldn't recommend to anybody
Yeah.
to do that. So it's kind of interesting. So the other part is that who am I? To build that self confidence. And too many people, in my mind, are they are and I get that when I make presentation. I usually say to respect to the people that I'm making a presentation to is that too many people are too preoccupied. This doesn't look right. This is wrong. That's wrong. I'm not wearing the right thing here, there, the other thing is saying that there is only one of you in this whole world, and you are special. Not better than, but special. Do not get overly preoccupied with all the things that you think are wrong with you or not, or become limiting for whatever reasons. Feel that you are special as to who you are. Not better than, but special. And accept who you are, and then create that self confidence. Very, very important in all the things that you do in life.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah, I love that.
Kelvin, it was an amazing podcast. I will send you copies of my books. I will sign them for you. And let's make
Oh
sure we
yeah,
stay in touch.
absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
And, for all those people watching us from around the world, again about Calvin and his story, and then again, fitness, physical, mental, body fitness, extremely important. Diet, very, very important. If you like what you see in my podcast, then subscribe, share it with others, and like it, and make comments. Again, Calvin, it was a pleasure and a privilege. We'll stay in touch. We'll send you the books.
Likewise. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Take care, Calvin. Bye bye.